I have good news and I have bad news for today's video. The good news is that I think we have a longer preparation time for what is going to come. The bad news is that what's going to come probably will be very turbulent times, and one needs to prepare himself in order to survive these times. So what we are going to do in today's video is I'm going to lay down a lot of different market cycles to you. I'm going to explain them to you, and with these cycles in mind, and the funny part is many cycles are basically predicting a similar time frame of what's to come. They also again fit in these prophetic dreams with the Joseph stories, which is very interesting as well. So this is really a video that is for the longer term time frame. So I would save this video as well to check next year or maybe the year afterwards, and I need to save this video for myself too, because just a lot of interesting things that we are seeing that are probably going to unfold in the year 2025, 2026, 2027 and beyond. And if we don't prepare correctly right now and we're not aware of it, then we might not be able to survive and thrive during those years. So this video will be technical, looking at certain cycles, explaining about certain cycles, but also a little bit speculative in how these prophecies of the wealth transfer are fitting into these bigger cycles, because they do fit in somehow. Okay guys, let's jump straight into it. And the first cycle that we are going to talk about is the banner cycle. I'll put it right here, guys. And it's very interesting, the banner cycle, because the banner cycle has shown a lot of accuracy in the past. And let's have a look at some examples where the banner cycle actually had made right predictions. But also let's have a look at what makes this banner cycle so interesting. So first of all, this cycle is based on time. And as you guys know, when we have a chart, you have the axis for the price, but you also have the axis for the time. Many analysts, they are just analyzing the price, but they forget to analyze the time. And there are some very famous and successful analysts like William Delbert Gann, who was known to analyze time more than price. And I think especially when we look at these longer time frames, so for example with this banner cycle, and I'll put it up here, let's have a look at some examples. But basically the banner cycle is predicting years of panic, it's predicting years of good times, and it's predicting years of low prices. So when we have a look at the historical price action, we can see already 1999, which is at the A right here, that is a year of panic. And it was a year of panic because this is the year, or maybe 1 year before the dot-com bubble popped, and when we saw 9/11, right? This is when the stock market never went to these highs again until today. And I know, hear me out, because you're gonna think like, what do you mean? The stock market make new all-time highs? That's true. But if you divide the stock market by the money supply, then you can see that in terms of purchasing power, we never reach the highs of the year 2000 anymore. Which basically means that the bull market that we are in right now is an illusion of a bull market. I've mentioned that many times, because the purchasing power of people in the stock market never recovered until the levels that we have seen in the dot-com top. So what we can see is that the banner cycle predicted basically that we are going to top at the year, of that we are going to have a panic year around 1999. But sometimes this cycle is 1 year off. I mean, these are long-term cycles. They are predicting the ebb and flow of societal behavior, global behavior basically. So sometimes they are off by a year. That's definitely possible. But if we then come down, and then we can see the good years is, for example, 2000, 2005, 6, 7 were really good years. Those were really good years. And then again, 2007, it was a panic year. This was actually the housing market crash. The fall of the Lehman Brothers happened in 2008. Right, so then we come down again, and then 2012 till 2019 were actually pretty bullish years. But in 2019, again, it's maybe 1 year off here again. But in 2019, we actually had a major low for Bitcoin, which was trading at 3,000 US dollars in 2019. Was a beautiful moment, because that's basically the moment that I was going all in, like selling my car and everything to put it all in crypto. But then when we come down again, then we can see that the years of 2023 and 24, they are basically saying that 2023 and 24 are the accumulation years. Maybe 2023 is more the accumulation phase than 2024. But then that 2025 will be a good times period, 2025, 2026. But then when 2027 comes, or 2026, this will be, following the banner cycle, will be a panic year. And that is very interesting, because this is not the, and that's what I find very interesting, is this is not the only cycle pointing to a low in 2026 or 2027. So I personally believe, also based on this cycle, but based on other cycles as well, which I will show you in just a second, that 2000 somewhere along 2026, I think we are going to see a market top. It is possible to see that already in 2025, but I'm not really sure about that yet. But it's definitely something we need to prepare for. But around 2026, 2027, I think we are going to see a massive, massive recession. We go to evidence number 2, and that is the yield curve inversion. Actually, the uninversion. But what we can see, guys, we have the S&P 500 right here. This is the illusionary S&P 500. Like I said, we have never surpassed this specific point in terms of purchasing power, but it looks like we are at way higher levels. This is a very distorted chart of reality, if you ask me. But if we look at the yield curve uninversion, which basically means that it goes beyond the baseline right here, it goes into negative territory. The moment it comes back up again, it's basically almost always, and this is one of the best indicators like for recessions, is that a recession will follow. So for example, right here we had an uninversion of the yield curve. We had quite a recession, right? Like we had quite a drop in the S&P 500. Here we had a uninversion. This was a real bear market. This was still like quite a correction, which we covered the coming years afterwards in this chart. And if we have a look at this uninversion, that one was almost instantly followed by a bear market. That was the dot-com bubble crash, which was very significant event in the history of finance, the history of economy. Then here we got an uninversion as well. Now, a couple of months later, we get this the fall of the housing market. Here we had an uninversion, very short one, March 2020, massive correction. Now we have been in negative territory pretty long, and we are getting to the uninversion time again. And now it's very important to note, guys, if you look at the historical data of the uninversion of the yield curve, it is usually taking up to 6 to 24 months for the recession will be manifested after this signal. So we have seen in the past that sometimes it comes quicker. Like for example, right here we had the uninversion, and we still had, I don't know, March 2007 till the top of October 2007. That's maybe like around 6 months. I'm just doing this from the top of my head. And sometimes it manifests directly, right? It could manifest right now directly as well. But generally speaking, it takes up to 6 to 24 months after this inversion before the real recession is going to take place. And the interesting part, guys, is if you look right now, 6 to 24 months in the future, we could also definitely see that 2026, 2027 time frame. We go to document number 3, which are the interest rates. And guys, this is a very important, basically a very important metric, because the interest rates basically tells us how much liquidity is going into the markets or getting out to the markets, because the interest rates basically tell us whether money is cheap or whether money is expensive. And what we can see, guys, if we have a look at the past, that whenever we are seeing rising interest rates, this is almost with 100% certainty. If we have seen rising interest rates, generally that is followed by a contraction of the financial markets, right? So a correction. Why? Because this will make money very expensive. It's taking money out of the system. Is actually creating a higher value for money, because money is becoming more expensive. And for a certain amount of time, that will create a selling pressure on the market. So here we can see increase interest rates, we get a correction, increase interest rates, we get a correction. Here we had increased interest rates, we eventually get quite a big correction until the interest rates are low again, because once the interest rates are very low, money is cheap, and then a lot of that cheap money will end up in speculative assets like the stock market, also in crypto. We can see this correlation also with crypto. But what we have seen over the past years, guys, is that and this is actually pretty crazy, the interest rates has been going up so extremely high. And if we have a look at the past, we cannot actually really see a lot of moments in recent history where we have seen the interest rates going up so aggressively over multiple years. So for me personally, when I see something like this, it's just a matter of time before this is going to be manifested in the markets as well. Then we have, of course, a very important question to ask ourselves: will that have an impact on crypto too? And generally speaking, historically speaking, yes. Every correction in the stock market, and there was this correction, this was the 2022 bear market. We've also seen that in crypto, deep retracements. This correction, March 2020, we've also seen that in crypto. So if we just go by the last data points, yes, a correction in the stock market, which looks to come also in the coming years, 2026, 2027, I think somewhere around these years, maybe even we are going to see the top in 2025. But this will eventually be manifested by a massive drop in the financial markets, and that maybe is going to even be a bigger crisis. I actually think it's going to be a bigger crisis, because there's so many things playing right now than what we have seen in 2008. You've probably heard about Ray Dalio's debt cycles, and as you can see right here, we are right now also at a moment of time where there is just insane amounts of debt. And Ray Dalio thinks that these are also going into shorter term and longer term cycles, and that right now we are at a top. And the crazy part is that Ray Dalio's debt cycles are definitely corresponding with the banner cycle. Now it becomes interesting, because when we have a look at Bitcoin, we are seeing a similar picture. Because if we look at the regular 4-year cycles, so as you can see, I've made here these 4-year cycles on the chart, and they consist of a green and a red box. The green box is the bull market, the red box is the bear market, because a 4-year cycle in the historical price action of Bitcoin has seen 3 years of upwards price movement, followed by a 1-year bear market, followed by 3 years upwards price movement, followed by a 1-year bear market, followed by 3 years upward, 1-year bear market. If we would replicate the same thing, and as you can see, even if you count the months, they are so accurate. If you would just have been investing based on this theory, the 4-year cycle, you would almost not work at all, because you just need to wait. You need to sit out the green, sell around here, wait out the red, buy around there. You would really most likely outperform most people in the cryptocurrency space. So it's very interesting. So if we would replicate the exact same thing, then we would go up until the end of 2025, late 2025, top somewhere around there. And then we are going to see the new low in the end of 2026. And again, the interesting thing right here, it points again to 2025 be still a bullish year, and 2026 where we could already see problems. So, and maybe this is going to result, we don't know that yet, but maybe this is going to result in a longer, followed by a longer bear market, because this is called a secular bull market. So we have a bull market, bear market, bull market, bear market, but this is also a bigger bull market. So you have, like, just like we just saw with the Ray Dalio's chart, we have shorter term time waves, but we got longer term time waves as well. So we could also be seeing, when we are going to see these hard and difficult years, that crypto or Bitcoin is going to go into a longer bear market than what we are used to with crypto, because we are going to see a massive crisis, something similar as the Great Depression of the 1930s. That is definitely possible. Guys, this was a lot of information. What can we do with this information? That's a very important question that we have to ask ourselves. And I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I do believe that when looking at these cycles, and I've been analyzing many cycles during the past 5-6 years, I think cycles are really an important part of being able to position yourself for what is going to come. And I think what is going to come is we are going to have, I do believe, still in 2025, but I can be completely off, but this is how I interpret these cycles. I think 2025 and optional 2026 is going to be very, very bullish. It's going to be like a blow off top phase, like a mania, like something we have seen with the dot-com bubble, where internet suddenly completely all the valuations are going up. And afterwards, I think we are going to top somewhere in 2025 or 2026, and we are going to see a very massive market crash, which will wipe out a lot of liquidity and will leave a lot of people standing on the sidelines and facing very difficult problems. So I believe that we really have to prepare the coming year in 2025. You'll have to prepare for this event in such a way that you can survive multiple years without being too much dependent on third parties. Right? Of course, one thing that you can always invest in is your own skill set, because if you have a skill set that cannot be replaced by AI, then you always probably in demand for work. So you will always be able to generate an income, right? But we're also going into a crazy world where AI is taking over, and if we do get like a Great Depression like in the 1930s, it's going to be a very difficult time for many people, and especially for the people in the Western societies, as the debt bubble or the debt is the highest, right? So to recover from that, it will, I believe, for Western societies will be more difficult. So if you really take it to the basics and you go to some tropical countries where there's a lot of food, right? There's a lot of supply of food. In the Western, there's not so much. Western countries are often depending on food on certain seasons, or on a certain import. But if you go to to other countries, there is a abundance of food. And if the economy would completely collapse, the bananas would still grow on the tree. The coconut would still grow on the tree. So that I find very interesting. I think those countries will have... The countries that are basically less involved with the economy makes a lot of sense. But maybe that also are third world countries. They will definitely have a less effect of the crisis that is going to come than the Western countries who are completely depending on the current economical system. So what can we do? First of all, expect that a crash is going to come. Expect that there is a high likelihood that that's going to come. We have a lot of signals that I shared in today's video. How can you protect yourself against that? And the simple answer is diversify. And you can see diversification in a very broad way. You can, for example, invest in precious metals. Make sure if you invest in precious metals like silver and gold, you hold them physically. So you hold them physically. You don't have have another company hold them for you, because if that company goes bankrupt, you lose your assets too. So I would say diversify in crypto, in precious metals, very important. Maybe you can diversify depending on your net worth, of course, in some real estate as well. Not debt real estate, but true owning real estate. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this, because you're also really depending on government policies when you are investing at a certain location, right? If you have gold or crypto, it's easy to move cross-border than a house, for example. But of course, in the times of depression, if you have houses and you can rent them, it's always a nice income source. And maybe you can also think of diversification to diversify in multiple countries and multiple currencies. So not only holding cash US dollars, but also invest in different currencies, right? So you are diversification can also be opening a company in a different country and having some assets there. So divide your assets over multiple countries is also very interesting. I would say definitely with political instability, rules can quickly change. If you have to move fast, it's not that handy when you still need to sell a house because all your money is in that house. That's how I personally view the situation. So I think prepare by diversification, and that's something you can do in 2025. Another thing that I think is important is that I want to mention basically, but I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, is when we see that wealth transfer that we are talking about, then maybe, and this is the story of Joseph, which I think is very interesting, because they are talking about Joseph. They often talk about 7 good years followed by 7 bad years. And if you check from 2019 till 2026, that are 7 good years. And I don't know about you, but I'm personally experiencing very good years. Of course, there are some problems left and right, but I mean, with the economic markets, we have now and then a shakeout. But the last 7 years, I mean, Bitcoin went from 3,000 to over $100,000 US. So maybe these are the 7 good years, which will be followed in 2026 by 7 bad years until 2032. And maybe right now we need to prepare for those bad years. But if that wealth transfer really comes, and this is what I found interesting also in the story from Neval Johnson, he says Joseph is going to prosper, he's going to rise in times of crisis. So maybe, and this is also why maybe crypto remains an important part in this whole story, because maybe whenever we are going to see that Great Depression, debt crisis coming, a lot of liquidity of value will fly to crypto, because crypto can be a very useful asset when there is, like I said, let's say there's political instability. People need to quickly move from one country to another, quickly move liquidity. You need to send it without third parties. You need to buy a new passport. I'm just saying some crazy things, right? You need to buy a new passport. You need to pay this and that. Crypto makes that actually very easy. But then comes the thing, not all the crypto, because if there's a times of crisis, people don't want to take risks. They don't want to speculate. So there will most likely become some lower risk cryptocurrencies that will have a higher demand. Like I mentioned in my previous videos, of course, in this whole story, the lower risk cryptocurrencies probably are the ones most regulated, which are the ISO 222 tokens like XRP. So they fit also again really in that story. So maybe to place the story in the wealth transfer, the crisis can come in 2026 or 2025, and that will basically make certain cryptos, maybe XRP or XLM, maybe Bitcoin, will go parabolic because the demand will increase so much because it is needed for its utility, for cross-border payments, for moving liquidity around the world without a third party being able to block. So one country cannot say, no, we don't want money to leave to another country. They cannot say that with crypto because crypto is easily sent from China to the States to Russia, right? It's difficult to get a hand on that, especially right now in the early days. But so this is a very important, this is a very interesting topic because it looks like very difficult times are coming. Poverty is coming to many people. But like I've heard in the Joseph prophetic dreams and prophetic stories from other people, is that's also a part of the Joseph story. That there comes a crisis, Joseph will rise during that crisis, and that crisis is part of the reason why he will rise. So, something to think about, but I do think that we have to have faith in everything that we feel is right to do, and that is maybe the most important thing, to stick to yourself. That's really, I'm going to have a talk about this too. That is really maybe the most important thing, but we should not lose our ground or relationship with the Mother Earth, grounding that we should also be smart, right? If we have a lot of profits, we shouldn't be greedy and leave 100% just in one asset because we want like more. Sometimes it's good, take a little bit out, diversify a little bit, throw some money around. For me personally, that always has worked out pretty good, to be honest. Diversification is really interesting. Then the next topic, guys, and that is maybe we're going to dive deeper in that in other videos, but that is of course the moral aspect of the society right now and why it's so important to stick to yourself. So what we basically see is that there are a lot of things in this world. Like this world, it looks like it's really divided into two camps, and it's also a world of duality, right? But we have an organic world. Maybe later you will realize what I mean, but we have an organic world and we have a synthetic world. And what I believe is that the organic world, which probably are the people that are watching these videos, the people that are empathic and has empathy, they look, for example, at government officials, and they also look at what's happening in the world, and they think by themselves like, oh, I could never do that. I could never do something like that to another human being. But we also have to realize that there are human beings that don't have a consciousness. They can hurt another human being without feeling guilty or without feeling responsible. They call this also psychopathy. I hope I say that good in English. Psychopathy. psychopaths basically. And what I believe is that this is a really good analogy of what's happening in the world, because we have basically a group of people that are in power, that are disconnected with, basically, maybe disconnected with their soul or disconnected with the source. They don't have a consciousness. They don't feel guilt. They don't feel responsible for the things they are doing. That's also why a psychopath can super easily lie. They can say something and the next day say something completely different without feeling anything, because there is no emotional, there's nothing inside there, right? And they often look for power, and often these people, they are going to political positions because they like power. They enjoy power. They also enjoy hurting other human beings. And that is also something we have to realize as an empath as well, is that maybe it's a very small percentage of the world, but they have a big influence. But there's maybe a small percentage of the world that doesn't really carry a consciousness, because that one is disconnected maybe early in their life. And they say it sometimes, they talk about wars, because they say wars are being made by psychopaths, but they also create the new psychopaths because they traumatize the new generation so much that the connection, because of those traumas, they lose the connection with their true self, which the consciousness just leaves. They're just like, I'm not signing up for this, I'm going. So they become the new psychopaths because they don't have that connection either. So what I'm trying to say with that is that I think it is important to realize that exists, because it's very difficult for us, probably this group of people here on this channel, to realize. You either had a personal experience with this and you know about this, or you don't realize this, and you're looking, for example, at the news, and then you see, for example, people are lying. They are bluntly lying in the camera, and you know that they probably know they are lying, and you know for 100% sure that they are lying, but they don't blink an eye. And then you can get upset, like, whoa, like I had that personally, especially in the beginning. I was like, yo, like, how can they sleep how could you sleep at night, right? How can you sleep at night? Like, if I would tell already a small lie, I'm already like would feel guilty that I did that, you know. But yeah, the important thing is that not everyone works like that. So that also is going to be one of the reasons why it's going to be possible to get these stories of Mark of the Beast and like wars and like horrible things happening. So I think we should be definitely aware of that. We should have trust in humanity. We should have a lot of love and kindness. That is very important to every human being, also to those people, also to people who have bad intentions. But you have to be strong in yourself and smart too. And that starts already by realizing that not every single human being on this planet is like you. And that there are systems in place and human beings that are trying to get you from your organic self, your true self. They're just trying to get you with impulses to something else. And that can be bad habits, that can be attention, that can be making you angry, it can irritate you, all of these things. And that's where your power comes in, because your reaction on those things is basically giving them power. So once you can realize, like, okay, these people are there on the planet, I recognize this one, okay, this one, I don't feel good with this one, I'm not going to give that any attention, or maybe that's something you got to figure out for yourself. But I just like to share my personal views right here, and I think that is, we as humans have to realize that this is part of this planet too, and that we gotta be smart in this in such a way that we don't react too much on it. And that might be very difficult. And maybe some people are listening to me and they think like, yo, this guy, I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, I think the moment we stand still, we choose to react, is going to be very powerful, because we are not going to let other people direct our life, or governments, or news, or whatnot. And that's where I think it comes there comes our heart energy, which is the key maybe in all of this, because we are going to an artificial world. It's going to be very difficult to separate reality from fakeness, but I think the instruments of our body are equipped with all the things that we need to find the truth, but we can only find it ourselves. I cannot tell you the truth. That's why I'm also always saying I'm not claiming to have the truth, because your truth might be different than mine. The importance is that you're going to look for your own truth. And I believe personally that you can find that only in your heart. Because in your heart you will be guided. In your heart there is love. In your heart there is kindness. There is a different, and this is also scientifically proven, your heart also has a brain. There is a brain in your heart. It sounds maybe weird, but you can Google about this. There's like a brain and an energetic field in your heart. But because we are being born, and we have to read books, and we have to analyze and do all these things, I can give you a personal story about this. How I actually found out about this is that I never like, I went to school, but I dropped out of high school. And I never really got good grades, because I could never really focus. I always had some problems at school, but I was a pretty happy person, pretty creative always. But I was never reading. I never read a book until I was 25 or 26. I never finished a book from the first page to the last page. I think when I was 25 or 26 was the first time that I did that, and it was a beautiful book of Wayne Dyer. Still that book has had a tremendous positive impact on my life, and I think reading is a very good thing. But the moment we are on a daily basis, we are reading, analyzing, doing math, going to high school, learning all these things, we put so much attention into our brain that the center of focus that we look to the world is in our brain. And then the brain is basically a piece of hardware where you can put software on. And when you scroll on social media, when you do all these things, software is being installed on your brain without you noticing it. Because you are being influenced, we all are being influenced by what we see. The input that goes into the hardware will be stored, and then will, in fact, if we live from that hardware, will influence us again. But the moment you go to your heart, and this is where a lot of people lost the connection, because of the structure in society that we are so focused on our minds. We have to learn, analyze, think about the future, worry about all these things. But the moment you go back to your heart, and that will be the leader of your life, then the mind will be more like, and this is what John McAfee stated this so beautiful, guys, really. He said, like, I hope I can phrase him, I can say it, quote him good. He said, your mind is a tool to achieve what the heart desires. So, and I think that's a very important shift that's going to come in this wealth transfer, and in this shift that we are feeling on the planet as well, is that our brain is a tool. It's not the master of our life. It's a tool that we can use like a hammer to put in a nail in wood. But the true leader should be our heart, because that one is coming from love and kindness. But yeah, guys, I'm very curious what you guys have find about this. It's just something personal that I wanted to share. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. That's basically it. Good times coming, hard times coming. Be prepared for both. And I think if you truly live from your heart, maybe the preparations are just going to unfold anyway, because you'll make the right decisions. But interestingly, with the cycles that we talked about in today's video, is that these cycles are lining up all kind of in a similar manner. So yeah, we are going to a period in the coming years which is probably going to be very difficult, and there will be a lot of poverty, and there will be a lot of crisis and recession, and a lot of businesses will be closed. And this is probably the same time that we are going to see the push of the Great Reset, that we of course all know about. But yeah, it's just interesting that these cycles are corresponding with what to expect, and they can help us to lay a little bit the timeline of what's going to come and what we can do to protect ourselves. Guys, thank you all for watching. Wish you all a beautiful day, and I hope to see every single one of you in the next video. Bye bye.